And let me tell you, it is so much easier said than done. It's really easy to sit here behind a screen and tell you, don't let what other people say in your personal life, at least, get under your skin, because it can completely wreck you. Truthfully, like, internet comments don't really get under my skin. Things that affect me are more in my personal life. For as long as I can remember, I've been doing adult unboxings. My attitude towards sex and sexuality and discussing things even like religion or politics on this channel never really caused an issue for me that I cared about. Long story short, people in my life have really attacked me for my personal choices and my online content. They explained to me that they were morally and ethically superior to me, that they were unsure as to whether or not they wanted me in their life. When that was said, that was when I was just finding out that I was pregnant. It continued on and got as bad as when I was around 7 months pregnant. Someone told me that they actually wished for my unborn baby to die. It's something that was really difficult for David and I to work through, and this negativity bled into everything in my life. It made, there was a lot of stress just in everyday life. It made me afraid of saying or doing certain things online. I started reconsidering the sponsorships that I was getting. I started worrying about what I was wearing, even in like Instagram pictures. And I'm so embarrassed about this because I really try to represent somebody that is way stronger than this. I developed like this new fear and stress that I had really never felt before. I think it's kind of apparent. Like, if you look back through my videos, I don't have the same oomph, I don't have the same spark, but the real reason is this, that I was operating a little bit silenced in a way because of the backlash I faced. I have a feeling that I'm gonna get a lot of comments saying to just remove these people from my life. It's not always that easy. I don't think I want to approach things like that either. Just closing a book, I don't think it's so black and white all the time. Even though for some people it could, and maybe it should be. Everybody's different, but I think my approach is going to not be to cut people out of my life, but I'm also not going to fight tooth and nail to keep people in my life that don't want to be there.
Now, this nihilism runs deep, and it conveys and betrays a certain contempt.
Words are important not because of how they sound, not because of how they make us feel when we hear them said, or how we change other people's feelings when we inflict our voices upon them. Words are important because of how we think about ourselves, how we think about life, how we think about reality. I'd like to suggest to you that your life would be different if you stopped using the word tolerance. If you forced yourself, not just in your writing and your conversations with friends, to avoid using the word tolerance and to instead talk about indifference. We once got onto a bus here in urban Canada. It was the long bus ride that connects the airport to downtown. As in many cities around the world, that's the longest bus ride you're ever going to take. In our case, it's from a ferry port, from a harbor downtown, and then the ferry connects to the airport. Details. And there was a severely mentally handicapped man who came on the bus. And I'm not faulting him for this. He came on. He said to me in a cheery, childlike voice, despite his years, he looked around 45 or 50. He said to me in a cheery, childlike voice, "You look like a businessman," which was just very unexpected. And I was in the middle of a conversation with my girlfriend about politics or philosophy or history or something. Yeah. Then he sat down right behind us and he proceeded to very loudly on the phone have conversations with people who were connected to the different church groups he was a member of. And again, I'm not faulting him. It wasn't like he was shouting at the top of his voice, but just in a very childlike, unsophisticated way. He talked about his blood pressure medications. He talked about conversations he'd recently had with different doctors and medical people who are compelled to spend time with him. And it was obvious in this conversation that his leisure time largely consisted of going from one church group to the next. And probably those are the main people in our society who are motivated to spend time with mentally handicapped adults. And he was going into detail about how he liked to go to this particular church for certain types of songs, certain types of services. But then there's a certain day of the week where he goes to this other church. He likes the lecture, or he likes the sermon, whatever. He likes the preaching there. And he had 7 different churches in his social calendar. And I'm guessing there were several different preachers who were very happy that he didn't come to just one, that he wasn't spending all of his time imposing upon their patience, faith, hope, and charity. Okay, well, what if that man were your own brother? What if that man were your own son? It's not about tolerance, is it? Are you going to say that you're fundamentally indifferent to whether or not he lives a lie? That this guy is severely mentally handicapped. There are a lot of things he's never going to understand. There are a lot of refined pleasures in life he's going to be cut off from. Are you going to take the attitude that if it makes him happy to be a part of the Christian church or 7 different Christian churches, that you're just going to be indifferent to that? You're going to let him believe whatever he wants to believe as long as it makes him happy. What if it's not Christianity? What if it's Islam? What if he becomes a suicide bomber? What if he gets involved with jihadist, extremist Muslim groups? Well, that's the thing about tolerance. It has certain kinds of limits and limitations, but I don't want to talk about tolerance. I want to talk about indifference, your indifference, and your sense of moral responsibility. Because on some level, whether it is Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, or Islam, no matter what it is, ignoring your brother's beliefs, indulging your brother's beliefs, it's wrong. That really the right thing to do is for somebody to take the time to explain to him what's real and what's true in this world and what is not. The same way that somebody had to take the time to explain to this guy how to brush his teeth and why he has to use toothpaste. I'm not saying this to insult anyone. That's hard. Educating a mentally handicapped child, educating a mentally handicapped adult so they can take care of themselves on that level. That's hard work too. But you're making a judgment. Why don't you just let him have tooth decay if it makes him happy? Why don't you just let him eat all the candy he wants and never brush his teeth? You don't do that. You feel some kind of responsibility for a lot of parents and a lot of caregivers. A lot of people who are employed in this line of work, whether they be nurses or have some other certificate, as an educator to help take care of those people. You have to teach them again and again and again. No. Don't eat this, eat that. And this is how you have to brush your teeth. It's a false paradigm to think about and talk about tolerance. Because from our perspective as atheists, no matter how much we tolerate the Christians, no matter how much we tolerate the Muslims, they will never tolerate us. Now, Jaclyn Glenn is the definition of a phony, hypocritical, pick-me atheist. I did a little bit of research on the history of this pick-me concept. There's a hell of a lot of meaning packed into just 2 words in the idiom. It does seem that originally it was used by African Americans in a satirical way on Twitter to specifically describe a certain kind of woman who gets positive attention from men, a woman who flirts with men or who even seduces men, by reassuring those men that she as a woman would be willing to indulge his worst vices, his most despicable tendencies, unlike his current girlfriend or unlike most other girls. It's a very, very specific idiom and meaning. And we see this used a lot right now in veganism in the 21st century. People talk about and people revile pick-me vegans. Vegans who say they're totally fine with their roommate eating a steak in front of them. Vegans who say they're totally fine with their husband or wife eating meat. They are totally fine with their own parents eating meat, and they don't put pressure on everyone. And it's this very strange sort of pandering to the audience. And the reaction it seems to get is, oh, I wish all vegans would be like you, which basically means I wish all vegans would be fake vegans. Closely akin to Jaclyn Glenn representing this endlessly indulgent, endlessly indifferent, and quote-unquote tolerant model of atheism, where Christians can watch her channel. They can watch her singing a song titled Hallelujah. They can watch her singing Christian and Jewish hymns, performing Christian and Jewish ceremonies, celebrating both Hanukkah and Christmas. No word yet about that circumcision, whether or not she circumcised her son. And they can look at Jaclyn Glenn and supposedly say, oh, I wish all atheists would be like you. This is the pick-me atheist. Okay. But Jaclyn, those Christians, they don't look at their daughters and think, I hope when my daughter grows up, she's going to be like you. Jaclyn, those Christians, including the ones inside your own family, they look at you and they see the whore of Babylon. They see you as a painted whore. And there's nothing relativistic about it. Their perspective is that they're right and you're wrong, and you're going to hell after you die. Why pretend that we can all get along? Why pretend that we can have a school system where not only do children pray, but where we teach creationism and the theory of evolution on an even basis, as if, it's just a matter of personal choice. It's just a matter of preference. Oh, yeah. Some people feel the earth is round and some people feel the earth is flat, and we can all just get along. We can all just endlessly tolerate one another. Well, you know what? There are limits to the efforts we can make. There are limits to how much we can care. If you have a severely retarded brother, I understand. At some point, you just feel like my retarded brother believes the earth is flat. My retarded brother believes that the theory of evolution is a crazy government conspiracy theory, and I am just not going to fight anymore. And you can turn your back and walk away. You can never talk to your brother again. You can give up. And he may be too stupid to ever change. But that sense of powerlessness in changing just one person's mind, it doesn't make it less important to demolish the institutions of Christianity. It doesn't make it less important to demolish the institutions of Islam, Buddhism, so on and so forth. Right? It makes it more important because you realize these institutions, these organized religions, they are going out and preying upon people who are weak and downtrodden and brokenhearted. Yes, some of them are stupid. Some of them are just going through a time in their life where they're desperate for somebody, anyone, to tell them that they care. And then they end up becoming Scientologists. They end up becoming Mormons. They end up joining crazy cult groups. But you know what? Some of them just end up becoming Catholics. And what can I tell you? They join mainstream religions that have terrible knock-on effects for them as an individual. And when you scale it up, they have terrible knock-on effects for the political destiny of our society. All right? The objective of atheism is not to be a pandering, pick-me atheist like Jaclyn Glenn. And she has just been reminded, you can't break bread with these Christians and tolerate them and expect them to reciprocate that tolerance. You can love the streets and they won't love you back. All right? This is a one-sided, self-defeating game that you're playing. The objective of atheism is to break the power of the church now and forever, so that we have a future in which people like you, Jaclyn, people that even I look down my nose at because you're a dildo-slinging, ayahuasca-huffing, antidepressant-using, pot-smoking, meat-eating, cocktail-swilling imbecile. But yes, nevertheless, it's for people like you, Jaclyn, that I would prefer to live in a world where you're not oppressed by these inane religions that end up harming people more than helping them by making a game out of the difference between virtue and vice.